Site chat. Can I get a high? Can I get a high YouTube? Can I get a toad wave high YouTube? So listen, everyone. We got to talk about something important again. We have to talk about the demons in red states who are off making it their job to make who are making it their job to make the world a worse place. With every fiber of their being, they wish to make human beings suffer for their own political gain. They are just like the emblematic idea of stepping on people to gain clout and standing in the world. It genuinely is sad. We have to talk about this again because it is actually very important, and you need to be knowledgeable about this because this may be something that other states could do in the future, and these people deserve to be known about what's happening to them. So we're going to rewind the clock a little bit. We're going to go back to August, okay? Back in August in Florida, Ron DeSantis said that he was going to be investigating people who committed voter fraud in the 2020 election. They're still talking about that. DeSantis isn't all like gung-ho on they flipped the election or whatever, but he's on the train of, oh, voter fraud is rampant and crazy, and even though Donald Trump won, we gotta like do something about this. It's like for some reason now a big issue. He wants to play that crowd while also doing the tightrope balance with normal human beings who know that there wasn't fraud with the Trumpian human beings who say that everything was stolen every time they lose, and it was almost stolen even if they win, right? And he announced that his like task group he made for finding people who committed voter fraud found 20 people who committed voter fraud. 20 whole people. It's incredible, right? I honestly, when I saw the story, I didn't think much of it. There are a lot of stories for me to talk about in this time, so I didn't get time to look at this in particular, but I should have, because this already set off red flags the second this came out. Ron DeSantis on Thursday announced that the state is in the process of arresting 20 ex-felons, mostly in South Florida, for voter fraud tied to the 2020 election, the first round of what he promises will be a big wave of voter fraud arrests. So he says that there's a whole bunch of voter fraud arrests. And we didn't know too much about the people who were being arrested, but we did know that that one big thing about this is that they said specifically ex-felons, okay? Specifically ex-felons, people who committed felonies, who served their time in jail, and who are now back in normal society. Now, we have to talk about something really quick, okay? We have to go even further back in time, even back further than the 2020 election cycle. We have to talk about the election cycle that put Ron DeSantis into power, which was the 2018 election. In the 2018 election, there was an amendment on the Florida ballot that asked voters specifically if they wanted to give felons the right to vote back. Republicans did the same thing back then when it came to giving felons their right to vote back, as they tried to do around states these days when it comes to putting through constitutional amendments to make abortion illegal and everything, right? But they thought it was going to lose. They thought everybody was going to come out and vote against it. That didn't happen. It actually won by a reasonable margin, considering Florida is a reasonably close state on many elections. And since they weren't prepared for it to actually pass, what Republicans did is they dragged their feet. They dragged their feet the entire time. They fought against the people of Florida voting for giving felons their right to vote back, their human rights back. And they did everything possible to make sure that it didn't go through. Now, they failed, thankfully, but they're not done yet. They still have lingering resentment over felons being able to have their human rights be restored. Not completely, but in large part, now they're able to do things like vote in the elections that affect them, right? And a lot of these people are black. A lot of these people are poor. And all of these people had no clue that they were actually committing voter fraud. Now, the interesting thing about this is that the second that this was announced, it instantly implodes. Once we started to get more details about what was actually happening, it all started falling apart. The governor's own administration green-lighted the defendants' voter registration applications. Now he's arresting them for voting. So what happened is that Ron DeSantis made a spectacle out of the first round of arrests that he made, calling people who voted in the recent election people who committed voter fraud and promising more prosecutions to come. At least one target was dragged to jail in his underwear by a SWAT team at 6 a.m. But turns out that the individual ensnared in DeSantis's dragnet has no idea that they could not lawfully vote. The governor's own appointees flubbed their legal duty to stop them from registering, and because of their sloppy errors, all 20 people may well be acquitted of the crimes that they did not intend to commit. So this is what we're dealing with now, which is everything starting to completely fall apart as we found out that the real issue that happened here was not people illegally going out to vote, was not people maliciously trying to put in a vote that they knew that they couldn't do legally, even though they should have been able to do it morally. This was the DeSantis administration giving people voter registration forms, telling them that they could vote, telling precincts that they could vote, taking their vote, allowing them to vote, and then arresting them for doing something that they told them they legally could do. That's the problem that's happening here. All right? That's what's happening here. Yeah, the people, this is just complete incompetence on like the conservative side of the aisle when it comes to this, but they don't care. Nobody's talking about how any of those people could be arrested or anything. It is another incredibly common DeSantis L, but it's an L that's costing people time in their lives. He's terrorizing people, torturing people, all for his own gain. And now, we didn't know what was actually going on inside of these arrests until recently, where this all blew up. And what happened is that news organizations were digging into the story and were trying to acquire the body cam footage through public access suits from the police departments to be able to see what was actually going on when they were arresting these people for voter fraud. And I would like to show you some of this now. And I would like to warn you that this is a little heartbreaking. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to speed it up by like 1.25. So if it seems a little quick, that's why. It's just so we can get through more of the video in a timely manner.
So apparently, I guess you have a warrant.
For what?
I'm not sure.
For voter stuff, man.
For voters.
What it is, I think the agents with FDLE talked to you last week about some voter fraud, voter stuff, when you weren't supposed to be voting, maybe.
I didn't.
So,
what are they talking about?
that's what we're not the case agents, but what you got to do, they have reduced your bond quite a bit. It's 2 felony charges for voter fraud, but they've reduced it to $500 bonds. So it's $1,000 total.
Oh my God, man! What?
Yes, sir. So unfortunately, right now we're gonna have to take you to jail, but you got a bond right away. You don't have to go to first.
This is insanity. So this guy, who's literally just living his life, he got his human rights back from the voters who overwhelmingly voted for Amendment 4 back in 2018 to give him his rights back. The state told him that he could get his rights back, and then they took it away from him. Did a little switcheroo, and then are now trying to arrest him for doing something he was told he legally could. Now, there were some stipulations. Some people with felonies actually didn't get their rights back, as far as I remember. But DeSantis gave everyone voter registration forms to be able to fill out and then file to their local precincts to be able to vote when election season came. I have a little conspiracy theory, okay? And this may be just because I'm jaded and think that like a lot of conservatives are literally just fucking demons who like human suffering and will do anything to get a quick buck and will do anything to get another vote by lying to people who are duped into believing that they're doing something to make the world a better place. But I have a little conspiracy theory I'm going to show with you, okay? I'm going to share with you, which is I think this wasn't a mistake, all right? I think they did it on purpose. I think they knew that Donald Trump was going to be banging the drums even before election season came, that voter fraud was going to be active. He's been saying it for months. He's been saying it for years, even before first ballots went out. And the DeSantis administration saw an opportunity. They saw an opportunity to kill two birds with one stone. They saw an opportunity to take human rights away from people who were giving them back. And they saw an opportunity to make inroads with the Trump crowd. So if he ever runs for president, he knows that he'll have their vote because he'll lie to them to say that he's actually cracking down on voter fraud when he's not, and just making people's lives worse. Okay. And so what he did is he knowingly, willingly sent out these ballots and registrations to get them to vote, baited them into voting, and snared them ensnared them with entrapment to commit a crime that they had no clue that they were actually going to commit, and then arrest them for it, tout it as a big political win, and then pretend that nothing happens afterwards as they keep rolling through these fake arrests where people get their lives uprooted for time after time after time, and then put back onto the streets. He arrests all these people. Just so you know, there's 20 people. 12 of them are Democrats, and almost all of them are black. 12 are Democrats, and almost all are black. I don't think that this is a coincidence, if I'm going to be honest. Yeah, it's all just a little too convenient. Let's watch a little bit more of this. And you can see how completely confused these people are. The cops are confused because because they're just following orders and they were told to arrest people, so they're just going to arrest them anyways. But they have to talk to these people and be like, yeah, I'm really sorry, but we're going to have to put you in jail for a crime that you didn't do. And these people are like upset because they're going to jail again for something that they had no clue that was illegal and honestly isn't illegal.
First appearance, nothing like that. So
I didn't do it.
Come in. Do you have a warrant for your arrest? For what? For voter fraud?
Good, how are you doing?
Right? Oh my God. Hold on. Wait.
Let me see how my husband. We're telling he's right here.
Come on right here. So if you can put your hands on your back, please. Oh my God. Do not move.
Ultimately, ma'am, you have a warrant. Okay. The warrant. Hold on, listen. I know you're caught off guard. I understand. Right? So you have a warrant. It's for voter fraud. Okay. Hear me out. It's an ROR. You know what an ROR is?
Oh my God.
You go in, you get booked, and then they're going to release you from booking.
You can go right out.
You're going to be right back out. Okay.
Right back
but you have a warrant.
Okay. I'm like, voter fraud. I voted, but I ain't commit no fraud.
Well, so that's the thing. I don't know exactly what happened with it, but you do have a warrant. That's what it's for. Okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
nobody knows what's happening. The cops don't know what's happening. The people who are voting here don't. This makes me so sad. This woman looks like my aunt. I can't. And a lot of my family live in places like Georgia, where Kemp is doing the best to make sure that they can't that a lot of black people can't fucking vote by mixing up and changing the names. It's actually just disgusting what these people are doing. Yeah, I mean, you're right. At least the cops didn't roll up and shoot these people dead. You know, that is a cherry on top. At least the cops didn't roll up and instantly murder these people. You know, that's good. At least, you know, we can be happy about that.
I don't know what happened with that, but
I got out. God told me that I was 3 years to go vote for whatever time I got my time.
Yep. But the warrant was just made yesterday, so yeah, I know. I don't know, ma'am. I honestly couldn't tell you. Okay. So I got to do some paperwork, and the quicker I can get the paperwork done, the quicker I can get you there. Okay.
Hey, unfortunately, you got a warrant out, okay?
Warrant?
Yes, sir. Want to put your hands on your back for me?
Well, no, but no one ever really explained all that much to me. I told the guys when they came out here that I was at the driver's license place, getting my new driver's license. Yeah. The guy there asked me, he says, hey, can you walk? He says, hey, I'm a big gun. I'm pretty sure I can. He goes, well, are you still on probation? I said, no. I got off probation like a month ago. He goes, well, then you can probably vote. Hey, just fill out the form, and if you can vote, then they'll let you give you a card. You can't vote, then you won't. And I'm like, all right. And there's your defense.
That's insanity. Also, I'm gonna be covering this. I'm not sure if they show any private information. I don't need. These people are already going through enough. We're not gonna be doxing them as well. It's genuinely disgusting what they're doing to these people. They're literally living their lives. They were told that they could vote. All of them got cards. All of them were told that they can do everything. Yeah, they were set up. We'll talk about that in a moment.
You know what I'm saying? That sounds like a loophole to me. Well, we can hope.
I'll give this back to you. Yes, sir.
Will do.
It's because of the sex offender thing that you can't vote. So, I mean, the warrant is for the voting deal, I guess, but... I guess it's kind of all tied together.
All of them were given
Yeah, I guess they're doing like some kind of roundup thing or something for all the ones that were within the county.
Yeah, I had to do one of these this morning already.
Oh, really?
Do you know the statutes for them?
It doesn't say it on the...
Let's walk over to
It doesn't say. Do you know the statutes that these people are being arrested for? No, it doesn't say. DeSantis is out there literally inventing crimes to arrest people for his own political gain. Bro, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, there's nothing that I think is more salient to American politics these days than we live in Gotham just without the superheroes. We have all the supervillains, but we have none of the superheroes, and we're just living life in Gotham, trying to make it day by day. And to prove how incorrect that the DeSantis administration is here, these arrests are just happening. And people are already getting off. Florida voter has election fraud charges touted by DeSantis dismissed. Just dismissed. He didn't go to court. He didn't win in court. The judge is like, this is insane. And then off you go. Get out of here. Please go live your life, because there's no possible way you can get these people on these charges. He's actually just causing suffering for my bad. I don't want to say no reason. No reason is just means they're evil. They do have a reason. You can still call them evil reason if you want, but for their own personal gain. It's actually just completely disgusting. Florida man had election fraud charges dismissed on Friday, making him the first of 20 people who DeSantis charged to beat the case. And all of these are happening in Miami-Dade County. If you know, Miami-Dade County is one of Florida's biggest counties, if not their biggest county when it comes to voting, and one of their most diverse as well, with a lot of black people. A lot of black people live in Tallahassee, and a lot of black people live in Miami-Dade. And these are the places which he's targeting to catch people for voter fraud when they never even committed the crime in the first place. And then CNN actually did a little bit of research here to go talk to a couple of people who were accused. Don't play an ad.
A hard, conniving slap in the face by the state of Florida.
That's what Ron Miller says he felt when he was accused of voter fraud. He was one of more than a dozen arrested as part of a far-reaching state operation to crack down on supposed voter fraud in Florida, arrest that left many confused.
Voter fraud, I voted, but I ain't commit no fraud.
What is wrong with this state, man? What talking about voter fraud?
You know what? You know what? True. That, like, what is wrong with this state? What is wrong with this state? That, honestly, I think that every day when I think of people who live in conservative states. I'm not gonna lie. I was thinking about this a little bit. If conservative states keep getting worse, we may actually have to evacuate some people, especially minorities, from some of the state borders. If I'm going to be honest with you, some people actually may have to be evacuated from having their rights, their civil liberties, their lives trampled, destroyed, and ended by conservatives who want nothing more than to get extra votes and get extra money. That may actually have to be something that has to happen. I'm not going to lie to you.
It wasn't my mistake that was made. I trusted in the state of Florida to let me know what's going on. And they failed me.
He says he thought he was allowed to vote. Miller has a list of convictions under his name, including second-degree murder. But he tells us he's tried to stay out of trouble since his release. And then in October of 2020, he tells us he was approached by someone registering voters at the grocery store who told Miller he could restore his voting rights. Miller signed off on the registration, and then this voter ID came in the mail a few weeks later, just in time for the November 2020 election.
They literally just gave him his cards. They gave him the ability to vote. How can you say you can't vote when you give them the ability to vote? Dude, my blood pressure, bro.
I was happy. I was able to vote again. Wow.
So he voted, he says, even kept his I voted sticker. But then 2 years later,
they were like this at my door.
As if I had robbed a bank or something.
Adam Goodman is the attorney defending Nathaniel Singleton, also among those arrested.
It seems kind of improper that the government is saying, hey, go ahead and do this. We got you. Now you're in trouble. It seems like they're taking advantage of people.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be completely honest with you and tell you how it is. All right. I would hope that the reason why you're here and the reason why you watch and care about these videos is because you would think that I would at least tell it how it is. This is conservatives doing their best to reignite Jim Crow. It is. A lot of them are going to get mad at it. A lot of them are going to hate the way that you say that, but it doesn't matter because that's exactly what they're doing. This is conservatives trying to bring back Jim Crow laws as much as possible. They want to do it as much as possible. There's a reason why we still have why slavery is still legal in this country. It's only now you can do it in prisons and not just to anybody who you capture and keep on your plantation. Okay. Even though there's still plantations in, what was it, Alabama, the longest running plantation that slaves used to work on. And now since the state creates a felony for every crime that black people typically commit and that are more likely to commit than white people, they turn them, instead of like normal crimes, to felonies. And then they force them to work on plantations as cops walk around on horses and force them to work to death. Just like we have that, they're trying to bring back Jim Crow as much as possible to stop as many black people from voting and people who they disagree with from voting as possible. These people try to lie and say that the reason why illegal immigrants are being allowed in the country or giving clemency or something, the reason why people who come into the country, asylum seekers, people who help the country work, people who come here, don't commit trouble and just want to work to feed their families and put food on the table and have a better life for themselves, how those people are terrible and ruining the system. People like conservatives will constantly tell us and lie and say that the reason why people on the left care about immigrants who come into the country, legally or illegally, asylum seekers or anything, is because they want to dilute the populace and replace them with people who can vote, even though we're just treating them with normal human decency, something that apparently conservatives have no capacity for. They have no capacity for humanity, strangely enough, even though they try to call themselves people who have hospitality and love people or whatever, and say that they follow the Bible, whatever, I guess. But then they do this, like they try and say that we're manipulating voting by just treating people nicely and allowing them to vote, while these people arrest human beings who have done nothing wrong and who are allowed to vote or not allowed to vote, but it's not their fault. It's the state's fault for lying to them and giving them all the information they can and giving them all the paperwork they can to vote, but then going back and trying to throw them in jail for crimes that they weren't supposed to commit. This is entrapment. This is lies. This honestly is defamation as well on these people's lives, and they should sue. They 100% should sue the state and the DeSantis administration. I hope people are out there to help these people when it comes to their cases, because they shouldn't be in jail. This is genuinely disgusting what's happening, but it's something that these people do, and they're going to get worse. I tell you this all the time. There's not a single human right, no matter what it is, clean food, water, right to a fair trial, anything, to marry who you want, have intimate relations with whoever you want, anything, literally anything under the sun, that Republicans will not and cannot take away from you if given the opportunity to, and if they think that they can make a quick dollar, or if they think that they can get at least one vote on it. People like DeSantis would extinguish hundreds of lives if it meant that he could get just a handful of votes in his corner. He does not care. He couldn't care less, especially if there are people who don't support his own political gains. He is disgusting, and a lot of people like him feel the exact same way. These people need to be stopped. This isn't a game. This isn't funny. They'll do anything they can for money and clout, and that includes destroying people's lives in the process.